All right, we're continuing the story of my emotional growth, rebirth. I don't know what it is. It's a work in progress, but I wanted to get more emotional access. I wanted to be more genuine. I wanted to feel like I was being me and like I knew what I wanted out of life. So, as I was saying in the last video, I was using movement, specifically dance, and music and marijuana to try and break through and get something out of me, get something out of here or here, wherever the fuck the soul is. And well, watch the last video if you haven't, but it was working. I was starting to feel more. I was starting to understand other people better. And well, it wasn't without its discomfort. And that's actually something worth talking about, the discomfort of emotional growth. Because it is uncomfortable. It is. And that's not a bad thing. And I think that gets to one of our core problems culturally, is that we have this aversion to discomfort. Like we have to make everything cushy, and we try with our money and our technology to eliminate so much discomfort. And how that relates to this topic of emotions and feeling them and getting down to your core, is that when I would encounter emotional discomfort, I shied away. I just didn't want any part of it. It was like, no, God, I don't want that, And that really robbed me of a lot of growth. And if I had properly understood the reality of what discomfort was representing for me, if I understood what it was there to give me, then I would have looked at it closer to how I look at it now, which is, spoiler alert, it's the source of the good stuff. It's like the homing beacon on a map telling you where the treasure is. That's what discomfort is. Now, not all discomfort. I'm sure there's some that you really do want to avoid. But when it's something like an uncomfortable conversation to have with someone, that's the homing beacon telling you where the treasure is. And if it's a difficult decision to make, that's the homing beacon telling you where to go, where the treasure is. It's not a like do not enter sign. It's a, you better, put on your adventure outfit, whatever that is, and get going. Go dig in. What is a good way of putting that? You like video games? Like it's the dungeon. It's the door to the dungeon is uncomfortable to go through. But once you get working on it, and if you know that there's treasure at the end, then you can feel like, oh, this is a challenge for me. And not a bad challenge, like a video game challenge. You want to go in and you want to grow. You want to gain new skills and get the new armor and a new sword and develop as a character. That's what it is. I've thought before that this is, you could make a video game out of emotional development. Let the classic role-playing game style guide you through your own personal development. Here's the map of your emotional landscape. Here are the areas that you've uncovered, and of those, these are the ones that you've conquered. And then you've got all this unexplored territory over here of things that you don't even know exist yet. And you've got people along the way to help you, and you've got little resources to collect, and it's kind of a game, you know? Anyway, the discomfort thing. One of the problems with believing that discomfort is bad is every time you run up against it, it feels so natural to avoid it. Like for me, it would be like I felt like I successfully avoided the what is it? Like I just went around the hurdle. You know, I didn't jump over it. I went around it, but it was cheating. And it turns out the race doesn't count if you cheat. That kind of thing. Analogies. The discomfort has to be faced. That's what I'm getting now. And I didn't get that. I thought I could cheat. I thought I could avoid pain. I thought I could avoid pain. And, you know, the obvious thing now in retrospect is that by trying to avoid pain, I caused myself more pain, more than I would have if I had just faced it. And it's not just that I got pain out of the deal, I got this muted version of life, this dull, blurry, boring version where it didn't really matter what was happening around me. I interpreted it all kind of like, and I was a passive passenger. And that's something that if I think about, I know that I will regret any moments after this one that I spend being a passive passenger. It's just not the way that I want me to characterize my own life. You know, I'm the one that matters here, you know, to judge my own life. And that's one that I don't want to represent me anymore. I don't think it does right now, but it certainly used to. And so the emotional work that I've been doing is getting me out of that. That's, so far for me, that's been where the gold is doing emotional exploration. Trying to go in and feel my feelings, express them. And there are a lot of cultural walls that need to be broken through to do that. And it really helps to see somebody else doing it and to know that there's something worth having at the end of it. And so that's what I'm doing here. I want to talk about my experience with my own emotional journey and hope that it A, helps you, but B, also continues me on my journey because I'm still going. And in fact, I feel like I'm just starting. But I know that I've already made enough progress that I can recount some of my experiences and those can be helpful, you know? And you can get a jump start on it and maybe you don't have to wait, you know, until your mid-30s like me before you start, okay? Or maybe you're already older than that and it's okay. This is just a great time to start, you know? Okay. So I used the movement, marijuana, and music thing all together to try and break through, and so I could start dancing, and I could dance expressively. It didn't look good, you know. That's beside the point. I was dancing in private with the lights off, all that, you know. It's not about how it looks. It was about exploring how I felt, and trying to get the feeling out. Do whatever I had to do to take a feeling from inside here and get it out. Because the feelings, when they're stuck inside of you, they're going to make you feel like shit. And when you get them out, you feel good again. And it's especially true with something like grief and anger. They end up kind of sometimes running together. So I want to talk about both of those today. Now, I had a really distinct inspiration for my grief. My dad died, and it just crushed me. All right, and that started me down this, grief exploration journey, which led me to a men's retreat about grief called Tending Male Fire. I've talked about it. I can't recommend it enough. It's put on by an organization called Cascadia Quest. If anything emotional or men's work, sounds interesting to you, check it out because it's amazing. And hey, maybe I'll see you there because I've since gone back as a volunteer and it's tons of fun. If you like screaming and crying while another man holds you. Maybe that's not your jam, but it sure as shit is mine now. So, grief. I want to sell you on grief. That's what I want to do. I want to sell you on pouring out these incredibly vulnerable emotions, which means you will naturally not want to do it around people that you don't feel incredibly safe around. That's perfectly normal. But that doesn't mean that you should feel ashamed of having those feelings. This is a cultural fuck up of ours that we've stigmatized grief, especially for men. And I want you to know that the expression of grief is not just okay. I would argue it's necessary. It's like an imperative to your health and to your sanity to get it out. And I won't even call it a bad thing. It's not like it's an evil thing that you want to get out of your body. It's just a part of life. To grieve, it's like, I don't know, sneezing or coughing or something. It's not something to be embarrassed about. It's just your body has to do this thing and then you feel better. Like a sneeze, your body gets a stimulus and it's like, get this, dust or whatever out of my nose. Achoo! And then you're like, okay, we're good. And when you grieve, it's a physiological process that your body needs to do in order for you to be healthy. And if you don't, there's a lot of research and perspectives out there showing the links between something like unexpressed grief, or any emotion for that matter, and disease. And who knows how close the connection is or how far you can take that idea. But even if it weren't true, even if there was no disease-grief connection or unexpressed grief connection, it's still worth it for the psychological benefit that you get as a result of grieving. Now, it's possible that you may be thinking that you don't have anything to grieve about right now. Maybe, but I think it's worth considering that grief can come from a lot of sources. The need to grieve does not have to be the death of someone you know and love. It could be the death of a pet. It could be the ending of a relationship. It could be the loss of a job. It could be getting evicted. It could be any traumatic event in your life. It could be just a shitty childhood that you're pissed off about, and you wish you'd had something more idyllic, or just less awful. Like that's worth grieving about. And you can have, if you're an adult watching this, you could have decades of a backlog of grief. And all of that it's gumming up your system. It's like it's gunking in the air filter of your engine. And if you could get it out, if you could clean the filter, then the engine gets more oxygen and it runs with power. It's got gusto. And I always find that if I grieve, the next day I've got energy, I've got pep, and I'm happy, and the world is brighter, and I've got some zest, and man, nobody really communicated that to me as a kid. Or, it wasn't part of my human body owner's manual that you're gonna need to grieve periodically. It's going to feel uncomfortable, but then you feel better. It should be a part of like a maintenance regimen, You work out, you meditate, you sleep, and every once in a while you grieve, or you express strong and possibly uncomfortable emotions as a way of refreshing your body and your soul, your spirit. And I have found now with my experiences with emotional expression that I have an interest in spirituality now, where I didn't before. And to me, that's really interesting that I have this kind of expanded realm of my psyche that is being fueled by something new. It's like I got an extra, I don't know, I've got a new antenna that's tuned to a different frequency now. And I'm not, I wing these talks, so I don't always know where I'm going, but I really like it. It's a new universe to explore. It's like I get to discover new parts of my own existence, and I get to explore new avenues for passion and purpose. It's so cool because it was so unexpected. I just wanted to grieve for my dad, and that led me down this path that now it shows me how much I was lacking before. And so in a weird way, I can be really grateful for the experience of losing my dad. There's a part of me that's grateful for what that has done for me, even though it's absolutely heartbreaking. I miss that guy. I'm wearing his shirt right now. Isn't this a cool shirt? My mom made it for him. My mom made this shirt for my dad. That is just so cool. Something can be both good and bad at the same time, It fucking sucks that my dad died, but it's done a lot for me. I've grown a lot since then. And, when you grow in that way, you don't really want to go back. I don't want to be that guy again. I like where I'm going now. And so it gives me a good perspective on something that was very painful and still is very painful for me. This has been a bit rambling, and I feel like my focus hasn't been super great, but there's just such an upside to feeling uncomfortable feelings, to really feeling them. In fact, to the point of letting go of it takes on a life of its own. If you haven't really let go, let go of a feeling like grief and let it kind of take over your body, it's a hell of a feeling. It's kind of like being possessed or something. Like it owns you for a little bit, and you end up just convulsing and full body contraction and just all sorts of stuff, making the weirdest noises you've ever made. And then you come out on the other side exhausted, but but with an overwhelming sense of relief and even bliss. I think the best thing that I could end this with would be to say that in my experience, getting access to and really pursuing the expression of my grief has it made me stronger emotionally. It made me more thoughtful. It made me clearer in my desires and in my intentions. It made me more empathetic towards others, so I could relate better with other people. It made me more spiritual. It opened up a whole new part of life for me. And so I want to start trying to shift the cultural view of something like grief and just emotions more generally, because it's really unfortunate that emotions are taboo for men. You know, that's just weird. Anyway, there's a lot of crying going on outside of my office right now. So I think I'm going to wrap it up there and go see if there's anything I can do to help. So thanks. That was not my best one, but it was one. And that's just as good as I could do right then. All right. Thanks.